Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we take a whole snack of source material, articles, expert takes, research, and we really just plunge right in.
Mm-hmm.
We pull out those key insights, the stuff you really need to know so you can get up to speed quickly.
Exactly. Think of it as us doing the legwork, navigating all that information for you. We're highlighting the main points, maybe some surprising details, and just enough context so it actually makes sense.
Right, without you having to, wade through pages and pages yourself.
Yeah.
And today, we are exploring the power of water, specifically how swimming and, all sorts of water exercises can be like a really effective way to approach fat loss.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll also touch on what the sources suggest about targeting that often talked about belly fat.
It's a great topic, actually. And there's a lot of practical stuff here. For this deep dive, we've looked at a whole range of things, articles from fitness folks, insights from a world champion athlete, which is pretty cool, and health publications too. So we're covering, the basics of why water works, specific swim strokes, different workout setups like HIIT, and even some really creative exercises that aren't just swimming laps.
So our mission then is to really unpack what all these sources are telling us about getting the most out of your pool time. We want you to understand how it works, not just that it works, right?
Exactly. And what specific things you might try, based on what we found, to really help with your fat loss goals. So, let's get into it.
Okay.
So the first thing that really jumped out across pretty much everything we read, swimming is consistently flagged as one of the absolute best ways to lose weight and just get fitter overall.
Right. It's not just splashing around.
No, definitely not. It's presented as a serious, really effective workout.
Yeah, it felt like the sources were pushing back a bit on the idea that maybe it's, less effective than running or something.
Yeah.
I remember one point comparing it pretty favorably to running for weight loss, but crucially, without all that pounding on your joints.
Mm-hmm. And that low impact aspect, that's huge. It comes up again and again. The water supports so much of your body weight because of buoyancy.
Right.
Which, massively reduces the stress on your bones, your joints, muscles, all that connective tissue. And that makes it fantastic for so many people. People maybe recovering from injuries or dealing with joint pain like arthritis.
Yeah.
Or even just, active people over 50 who want to stay fit but maybe avoid some of that wear and tear.
Mm.
Compared to something high impact like running, the risk of getting hurt from the impact itself in the pool is just, it's incredibly low.
Okay, so low impact is a major plus. Definitely. But let's dig into the why a bit more. Why else is water such a unique fitness environment based on what we read?
Well, beyond being easy on the joints, the sources really point to a couple of key things. First, it's the way it engages your whole body. Unlike, say, cycling, which is mostly legs, or push-ups focusing on the upper body, swimming, it doesn't really matter which stroke. It just naturally involves muscles from all over working together at the same time. Your arms are pulling, legs kicking, and your core. It's constantly firing to keep you stable and transfer power.
Okay. So you're hitting way more muscles simultaneously than you might on land with certain exercises.
Exactly. It's just incredibly efficient for working your whole system at once. And that leads right into the second big factor.
Right.
The water's natural resistance.
Right. It's denser than air, much denser.
Something like 800 times denser, yeah. So as you move, you're always pushing against that resistance, not just forward, but sideways, downwards, upwards. Every move you make meets resistance.
So it's kind of like resistance training, but without needing actual weights.
That's a great way to put it, yeah. The sources point out that every single pull, push, kick, whatever your muscles have to work harder just to move through the water.
Yeah.
And that helps build both strength and endurance together. You're getting cardio and a kind of strength workout rolled into one. And all without that heavy gravitational load you get lifting weights. It's this dynamic resistance that makes it so effective and, really importantly, burns a lot of calories.
And that calorie burn, that's the direct link to fat loss, isn't it?
Absolutely. Your body needs to spend a lot of energy burn calories to push against that water resistance. And also, interestingly, just to maintain your body temperature when you're in cooler water.
Yeah.
That energy expenditure is what builds up that calorie deficit you need for weight loss.
I remember seeing one point tackling that specific idea that maybe you're better off just walking around the pool edge or something.
Yeah, that was interesting, wasn't it? Like they knew people might be skeptical,
Right.
And the sources really counter that strongly.
Yeah.
They detail the structured workouts, the potential for high intensity, the actual calorie numbers for swimming specific strokes, and doing planned water exercises. So while, water walking is a valid exercise, and we'll talk more about that, the overall message is clear. Structured swimming and targeted water workouts are way more demanding and effective for fitness and calorie burn than just, casual movement in the water. It's the structure and the intensity that really unlock the pool's potential for fat loss.
Okay, structure and intensity. Got it. So speaking of fat loss, that basic principle, it always comes back to the calorie deficit, right? Every source mentioned that.
Yep, that's the foundation. Non-negotiable. To lose weight, you have to burn more calories than you take in consistently over time. It's just basic math, really. And all exercise, swimming included, works by boosting the calories out, part of that equation.
And swimming seems like a really good tool for boosting it quite significantly.
It really is. The sources give us some numbers on calorie burn, but they're careful to point out it varies, depends on your weight, gender, body composition.
And how hard you're working, obviously.
Exactly. Intensity and duration are key.
Can you give us some of those figures just to get a feel for it?
Sure. One common estimate, I think, drawing from CDC data, suggests someone around, say, 154 pounds might burn about 510 calories in an hour doing freestyle laps at a moderate pace.
Okay, 500-ish calories an hour. That's pretty decent.
It is. And other sources suggest it can go higher, maybe around 500 an hour for moderate, steady swimming, but pushing up towards 800 calories an hour or possibly even more if you're really going for it with high intensity.
Wow, 800 an hour. That definitely makes an impact on weight loss goals.
Oh, yeah. It puts swimming right up there with the top calorie burning activities. They even compared it directly to running in some cases. Like jogging at maybe 5 miles per hour burns roughly the same as swimming backstroke for the same time for a similar weight person, which really shows swimming holds its own against traditional cardio, especially when you remember the low impact benefits.
So how does that translate into like losing a pound or two a week, which is often recommended?
Well, the source is connected to that rule of thumb. Roughly 3,500 calories equals 1 pound of fat. So for 1 pound a week loss, you need a 3,500 calorie deficit over the week.
Which averages out to 500 calories a day deficit.
Exactly.
Okay, so how much swimming would that take, based on the examples?
They give an illustration. For someone around, say, 70 kilos, swimming front crawl pretty vigorously for about 35 minutes a day could potentially hit that 500 calorie deficit just from the exercise.
Right, so that's about 5 hours of swimming a week.
Yeah, 5 hours total across the week.
Which, that's a fair amount of time. Might be tough for some people.
It can be, absolutely. And that's where the sources really highlight combining diet and exercise. They suggested a more maybe flexible approach.
Right.
Like maybe cut back your daily food intake by just 250 calories, which isn't huge for most people.
Right.
And then combine that with less swimming, maybe only 2.5 hours total per week. That could look like, say, 3 sessions of about 45 minutes each, doing front crawl or another good calorie burning stroke.
Ah, okay. That definitely sounds more manageable for fitting into a busy schedule.
It really does. And that synergy is what they emphasize. Swimming burns a lot of calories, yeah. But getting that sustainable deficit often works best by doing both moving more and making some smart food adjustments. And they strongly advise starting slow with the swimming itself. Build up duration, build up intensity gradually. The best plan, really, is the one you can actually stick to long term.
Right.
Even if you start with just 1 or 2 shorter swims a week, consistency beats intensity, especially at the beginning.
That makes sense. So as you get fitter, swimming might feel easier, right? And maybe your heart rate doesn't get as high.
That's a classic fitness adaptation, yeah. What used to feel tough starts to feel more comfortable. And that's exactly why the sources spend a good amount of time talking about increasing the intensity. Specifically using high-intensity interval training, or HIT, but adapted for the pool.
Right. HIT is huge on land. How does it work in swimming, according to what you found?
They describe it as a really powerful way to boost your workout's impact. Basically, you alternate short bursts of really intense, like almost all-out swimming.
Okay.
With brief recovery periods. And that recovery might be super slow swimming, or even just resting completely.
What are the main benefits of doing HII in the water for fat loss?
Several key things stand out. First, it gives your cardiovascular and metabolic health a serious boost. Those intense bursts shoot your heart rate and metabolism way higher and faster than just swimming steady, which means better heart health and a faster metabolism, not just during the swim, but afterwards too.
Ah, the afterburn effect, right, where you keep burning extra calories after you start.
Exactly. HIIT is really good at increasing that EPOC excess post-exercise oxygen consumption. Your body works harder to recover after that intense effort, burning more calories for hours potentially after you're done swimming.
That sounds like a major bonus if fat loss is the goal.
It really is. Another big plus they highlighted is efficiency. HIIT swim workouts can be much shorter.
Shorter? How short?
Often just 10 to maybe 30 minutes total.
Yeah.
Which is fantastic if you're pressed for time. You can get a really potent calorie-torching workout done quickly.
And probably less boring than just swimming laps at the same pace for an hour.
Definitely. That variety keeps things interesting. And of course, the main point, that higher intensity and the afterburn effect mean you potentially accelerate fat loss compared to doing steady-state swimming for the same amount of time.
Okay, so how would you actually structure a HIA swim? What did the sources suggest?
They gave some clear examples. If you're just starting with HIIT, maybe try something like 30 seconds of hard, fast swimming, followed by a much longer recovery, say 3 minutes of really easy swimming or rest.
And then you'd gradually cut down that rest time as you get fitter.
Exactly. As you recover faster, you shorten the rest. So maybe you work towards 30 seconds hard, followed by just 1 minute easy, and you'd repeat that cycle multiple times, maybe aiming for up to 15 cycles per session eventually.
I think they mentioned Tabata specifically too.
They did, yeah. Tabata is a really specific, very intense type of HIIT. It's 20 seconds of absolute maximum effort, like sprinting.
Okay.
Followed by only 10 seconds of complete rest. You repeat that 8 times in a row, which makes one 4-minute set.
Wow, that sounds tough.
It is. The sources suggested doing maybe 3 or 4 of those 4-minute sets in a workout with a minute or 2 of rest between each set. It's super challenging, but very effective because of that extreme intensity.
And should you stick to one stroke during these intervals?
They actually encourage mixing it up. Vary the strokes during the hard intervals if you can maintain speed, and definitely during the recovery periods. It helps work different muscles and prevents getting totally burned out in one area.
How do you know if you're actually hitting that high intensity zone during the sprints?
Good question. They recommend using a waterproof heart rate monitor if possible.
Oh, okay.
For moderate swimming, you're aiming for maybe 50-70% of your max heart rate. But for HIIT, during those hard bursts, you want to be pushing into the 70-85% range or even higher. Feeling how hard you're working is useful. But a monitor gives you that objective feedback to make sure you're really in the zone and see how you're progressing over time.
Okay, so we've talked intensity structure. Now let's talk about the strokes themselves. The sources mentioned different strokes work the body differently, right? And burn calories at different rates.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Choosing your stroke isn't just about what you like. It actually changes the workout and which muscles get hit the hardest. And the sources really encourage trying different strokes, partly to keep it interesting, but also to make sure you're getting a well-rounded total body workout by hitting various muscle groups.
So which strokes did they highlight as being particularly good calorie burners or for toning?
Well, the butterfly came out on top as the most demanding.
Ah, yeah, that one looks hard.
It is. And because it's so demanding, it burns the most calories. One estimate was around 450 calories in just 30 minutes.
Whoa, 450 in half an hour. That's huge.
It really is. Yeah. Butterfly works pretty much everything: shoulders, back, core, legs. Great for building upper body strength, flexibility, toning the chest, stomach, arms.
Okay.
But the sources do point out it takes a lot of strength and coordination. It's usually the hardest stroke to learn properly. So maybe not where you start if you're new to swimming.
Right. Maybe something to build up to.
Exactly. Next up in terms of calorie burn was breaststroke.
Okay.
Still burns a lot, ranked second, and they specifically mentioned it's really good for engaging your abs, a strong core workout.
Good to know, especially if people are thinking about that belly fat aspect.
Then there's backstroke, ranked third for calorie burn. It targets abs, but also the back and quads. So it's good for strengthening that whole backside of the body. They did caution, though, technique is important to avoid straining your neck.
Right, got to keep that head position right. What about freestyle? That's the one most people probably know.
Yeah, freestyle or front crawl. It's often the go-to, and for good reasons. The sources describe it as the fastest stroke, generally, and it hits a nice balance. It's reasonably easy to learn. You can sustain it for longer swims, and it still burns a good amount of calories. Maybe around 330 minutes was one estimate.
Okay.
Excellent for cardio endurance, and it helps tone the stomach, glutes, and shoulders. For a lot of beginners, getting comfortable with freestyle is a great way to build consistency.
Side stroke got a mention too, didn't it? Though less common.
Yeah, less common, but still effective. It uses an alternating kick and arm movement that helps you glide. Good for swimming longer distances, maybe in open water.
So the overall message seems to be, don't just stick to one stroke. Mix it up.
Precisely. The sources strongly recommend varying your strokes, either within one swim session or across your week. It hits different muscles, builds more balanced strength, helps prevent overuse injuries, and just keeps things more interesting. All of which contributes to burning more calories overall and better fat loss results.
Okay, so we've covered laps and strokes pretty well. But you mentioned earlier the sources talk about other ways to get a workout in the pool, right? Not just swimming end to end.
Oh yeah, definitely. This is where you can really get creative and use that water resistance in different ways. There are loads of examples for both shallow and deep water exercises that are great for burning calories and toning up.
What are some of the simpler ones they mentioned?
Water walking is a good starting point.
Yeah.
Really accessible, super low impact. You just get in waist to chest, deep water, and walk across the pool. Key things are to swing your arms like you would on land, keep your back straight, and this is important, consciously tighten your abs the whole time to engage your core.
Can you make it harder?
Yeah, easily. Using webbed gloves on your hands increases the resistance for your arms, or wearing special water shoes can add drag. Even without those, it's way more effort than walking on land because you're pushing against the water.
Sounds like a good warm-up, or maybe for an easier day.
Exactly. Then they talk about using water weights, usually those foam dumbbell things.
Right, they float, don't they? They're not actually heavy.
No, they're not heavy on land.
Right.
Their purpose is to increase the surface area you're pushing against the water, so they add resistance.
Ah, okay.
Like one example is a bicep curl. You hold the foam dumbbells down by your sides, palms up, and lift your forearms up against the water. Then you turn your palms down and push back down, again working against the resistance. You can do all sorts of resistance exercises like that for different muscle groups.
And kickboards, they're not just for kids learning.
Not at all. Yeah, they're great for learning kicking, but you can use them for a workout too. Hold it out in front and just kick. That really isolates your legs and core. Or you could even hold it and use your arms to push and pull it through the water for upper body work.
Even pool noodles can be used.
Yep. There was a neat leg exercise described using a noodle. You sort of loop it around one foot, hold onto the pool edge for balance, and then you bend and straighten your leg against the resistance the noodle creates as it pushes water.
Sounds like it would work your legs, but also challenge your balance.
Exactly. Needs good core stability.
What about water jogging or running? Is that effective?
Very effective. The sources suggest it can actually burn more calories than running on land for the same amount of time.
Really? Why?
Because of that constant water resistance.
Yeah.
Every stride forward and back, your legs are working against it. One estimate was around 550 calories an hour for a moderate water jog. Especially good in deep water, where your feet don't touch the bottom. Then your core has to work even harder to keep you stable.
Now, those multi-sport drills you mentioned from the World Champion source sound really interesting, but different.
They really are. Designed to be fun, functional, and use water resistance in ways that kind of mimic movements from other sports.
Yeah.
It's a great way to get a full body workout that's different from just swimming strokes.
Give us an example or two.
Okay, so there was a soccer speed skating set. For the soccer kicks, you stand on the water and really exaggerate kicking inwards across your body, like kicking a soccer ball with the inside of your foot, pushing hard against the water, then bring it back out. And the speed skater move involves sweeping one leg diagonally back and out to the side against resistance, then alternating legs, using your arms for balance. Great for the outer thighs and glutes. You do these in sets, maybe with some jogging in place in the water as recovery.
Those sound like they really target the legs and hips using that resistance.
They definitely do. Then there was a snow skier set. One move called downhill moguls involves squatting down in the water, then powering back up, maybe adding little twists and using your arms like you're planting ski poles, pushing down against the water, works the biceps and triceps. And a cross-country move mimics skiing, standing, and pushing opposite arm and leg backwards against resistance, picking up the pace for cardio. Again, with jogging recovery.
So those mix lower body, upper body, and cardio.
Exactly. And basketball drills too. Water dribbling is basically running in place or moving forward while pushing down hard on the water with a clutch hand, like you're dribbling, keeping your arm underwater for resistance. Works arms, shoulders, core, plus the running. And jump shots, you run or step, plant your feet, squat low, and then jump up as high as you can out of the water, going through a throwing motion.
Yeah.
That's a real power move for the legs and core against resistance.
Wow. And even martial arts moves.
Yeah, Taekwondo-inspired combos. These were highlighted specifically for how much they engage your core because you need so much stability in the water.
Makes sense.
Like front kick, stand tall, engage the core, lift your knee high, pivot, and then snap your foot out straight against the water. Or front fist, punches make fists, bend elbows, use your abs to drive a punch forward, rotating your fist, leaning into it against the water.
Jumping kicks in the water must be incredibly hard.
Oh yeah. They described a jumping front kick where you lift one knee, hop off the other foot, and kick out just before you land back down. Takes huge balance and power. They even combined it. Lift, hop kick, land in a lunge, then throw a punch.
Whoa.
And also donkey kicks, standing strong, looking over your shoulder, lifting a knee, and thrusting your legs straight back using your glutes and core. All these martial arts moves really emphasize using that core strength to control movement against the water's push.
It's amazing, really. These examples show there's so much more you can do in a pool than just swim laps. You can get a really varied, tough, and even fun workout just by using the water's resistance in creative ways.
Okay, let's zero in on something many people focus on when they start trying to lose weight. That belly fat.
Yeah, it's often the area people want to target most, isn't it?
It is. And this is where the sources all pretty much say the same thing, and it's really important to get this. You can't spot reduced fat.
Meaning you can't just choose where the fat comes off your body.
Exactly. Doing endless crunches won't magically melt fat only from your stomach if you're not losing fat overall. Fat loss happens everywhere, all over your body when you're in that calorie deficit.
Right, so 1,000 crunches alone won't do it.
Nope. But, and this is the key nuance from the sources, while you can't only target belly fat for removal, exercises that really work your core muscles will help strengthen and tone that whole midsection area.
Ah, okay.
So as you lose overall body fat through your swimming and diet, creating that calorie deficit, the stronger, more toned abdominal muscles underneath will start to show through.
So it's like building the muscle while the fat layer on top reduces.
Precisely. You're working on both things at once. And the great news is, as we've kind of touched on, swimming and lots of these water exercises are naturally brilliant for engaging the core.
Which specific strokes did they mention again for core work?
Breaststroke, butterfly, and backstroke were all specifically called out because they demand a lot from your abs and lower back for stabilization and generating power.
Okay, and what about the other water exercises we discussed? Which ones hit the core?
Well, water walking, especially if you follow the advice to consciously tighten your abs while doing it, that's a simple way. The martial arts drills those kicks and punches. They need intense core engagement just to stay balanced and control the movement against the water.
Right, you just fall over otherwise.
Pretty much. That noodle leg exercise requires a lot of core stability too, balancing on one leg. And things like water polo, treading in the deep end, especially without a float belt, that's a massive core challenge, just staying afloat and stable while moving your arms and legs.
Didn't one source mention specific water crunches as well?
Yes, that's right. In a Q&A section, water crunches were noted as effective because the water provides resistance on the way up and on the way down, unlike on land.
And there were even suggestions for core work after the swim.
Correct. The world champion source included things like leg lifts, holding onto the pool steps during the cool down, great for lower abs. And another source specifically recommended adding land-based core exercises after your swim.
Like what?
Like regular crunches, Russian twists for the sides, planks for overall core strength, and bicycle kicks. These target the core muscles directly to build strength and definition.
Okay, so the strategy seems clear then. Use the swimming and water workouts to burn calories overall, reducing fat everywhere, including the belly. And at the same time, incorporate strokes and exercises that really challenge the core muscles, plus maybe add some specific core work to tone and strengthen that area as the fat comes off.
That sums it up perfectly.
All right, so we've covered the why, the benefits of water. We've covered the how intensity, strokes, other exercises, the core focus. The next logical step, based on everything we found, is actually putting this into a plan, right? Making it actionable.
Exactly. Moving from knowing this stuff to actually doing it.
So how do the sources suggest someone could build their own swimming fat loss routine?
Well, they usually start with setting realistic goals. Have an overall weight loss target in mind, maybe aiming for that healthy 1 to 2 pounds a week range. But then crucially, break that down into smaller, specific weekly swimming goals, like I'll swim 3 times this week for 30 minutes each, or aiming for a total time in the pool. And they also suggested tracking your weight, maybe just once a week, same time, same day, to get a clearer picture than daily ups and downs.
And that theme of consistency came up again here, didn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Paramount. All the sources stress that swimming regularly is much, much more important than doing a few incredibly hard swims sporadically.
Right.
While maybe 4 or 5 days a week is ideal for fast results, they really emphasize that even 1 or 2 sessions consistently is way better than nothing. The best plan is always the one you can actually stick with.
What about advice for someone just starting out, maybe new to swimming for fitness or coming back after a long break?
Start slow, build up gradually. That was a very consistent message. If you're new, maybe begin with just 15 or 20-minute sessions, maybe every other day.
Focus on comfort first.
Yeah, focus on getting comfortable, getting your technique reasonably okay. Then, as you feel your stamina improve, you can slowly increase how long you swim for, or how many days a week you go. Trying to do too much too soon just leads to burnout or getting super sore.
Okay, so ease into it. How about structuring an actual swim session?
Pretty standard fitness structure, really. Always start with a warm-up, maybe 5-10 minutes of easy swimming, maybe some drills focusing on kicking or pulling.
Yeah.
Just get the body ready. Then comes the main set. That's the core of your workout. This is where you'd put your plan for the day, whether it's doing HIE intervals, swimming different strokes for set distances, or mixing in some of those water resistance exercises.
Okay.
And always finish with a cool down. 5 minutes or so of easy, relaxed swimming or water walking, and then some stretching afterwards while your muscles are still warm.
And keeping the workouts varied seems important, not just for the body, but for the brain too.
Definitely. The sources strongly suggest mixing things up. Change your strokes, maybe dedicate a session to those shallow water drills, try deep water jogging, or have fun with the sport-inspired moves. It keeps your body challenged, preventing plateaus, and it keeps you from getting bored.
Can things like kickboards or pull buoys actually help with fat loss?
They can contribute, yeah. Training aids like kickboards, pull buoys, the floaty thing you hold between your legs to isolate arms, fins, hand paddles, or those foam water weights.
Huh?
The sources say they're useful tools. They can help you focus on specific muscle groups, which might help with toning or building strength in weaker areas. They can help improve technique. And by adding resistance or isolating muscles, they can potentially increase the intensity and calorie burn of parts of your workout.
What about getting help with swimming technique itself? It can be tricky to get right.
That was mentioned too, suggesting that even just a few sessions with a qualified swim coach could make a big difference. Good technique means you move more efficiently.
Right. Less wasted effort.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which makes the work you do perform more effective. And good technique is also key for preventing injuries from doing the movements incorrectly over and over.
And, of course, listening to your body, taking rest days.
Crucial. Rest is when your muscles actually repair and get stronger. Pushing too hard every single day leads to overtraining. The sources even suggested things like water aerobics on rest days if you want active recovery. It's low impact, keeps you moving, burns some calories, but isn't as intense as a full swim workout.
Okay, so we've got the exercise part covered pretty well, but the sources were really clear, almost blunt sometimes, that exercise alone, even swimming, might not be enough for big weight loss results if the diet side isn't looked at.
Yeah, that message was loud and clear. Swimming burns a good number of calories, absolutely. But it's surprisingly easy, as one source put it, to kind of eat or drink back those calories without realizing it.
Right.
That calorie deficit has to happen. And for most people, diet is actually the more significant factor in creating it.
So what kind of diet advice did the sources offer to go along with a swimming plan?
Well, the number one principle is maintaining that calorie deficit. They suggested figuring out your approximate TDEE, your total daily energy expenditure, basically how many calories you burn just living and moving.
Okay.
And then aiming to eat slightly less than that. Using tracking apps, even just for a short while, can help you understand where your calories are currently coming from versus your goal. Though they also stressed long-term tracking isn't for everyone.
What about actual food choices? Any specific tips?
Mostly general healthy eating guidelines. Things like eat regular, balanced meals to manage hunger. Drink plenty of water, super important when you exercise, especially in water where you might not notice you're sweating as much.
Good point.
Get lots of fruits and veggies. Focus on high fiber foods, generally whole grains, beans, vegetables, aiming for maybe 25 grams a day or so. Using smaller plates can help with portion control. Try not to keep junk food readily available at home. And cutting back significantly on alcohol was mentioned, often empty calories. Plus, it can lead to poorer food choices.
The overall vibe seems to be about sustainable habits, not quick fix diets.
Absolutely. Finding a way of eating that you actually enjoy, that fits your life, and that you can stick with long term is way more effective than any crash diet. It's about consistent, mindful choices over time.
Did sleep come up in relation to weight loss?
It did, yeah. Getting enough quality sleep was highlighted as being surprisingly important. It affects hormones related to hunger and fullness, your metabolism, and just your overall energy levels to exercise and make good choices. Tips were things like avoiding caffeine late in the day, trying to stick to regular sleep and wake times, and having a relaxing routine before bed.
And lastly, they mentioned adding resistance training, even with swimming, providing some resistance.
Yeah, as a complement to swimming. Lifting weights or doing body weight exercises helps build or at least preserve your muscle mass while you're losing weight.
Why is that important?
Because muscle burns more calories at rest than fat does. And when you're in a calorie deficit, your body might break down muscle for energy if you're not stimulating it. Keeping muscle encourages your body to burn more fat instead. Plus, stronger muscles support your joints and can help your swimming performance and prevent injuries.
Okay, wow. We've covered a lot of ground. So if we had to boil it all down, what are the absolute key takeaways from this deep dive on swimming for fat loss?
I think the big picture is this. Swimming is a fantastic, low-impact exercise for overall fat loss. And yes, that includes helping reduce belly fat as part of losing fat everywhere else. Its effectiveness comes from using your whole body, working against that constant water resistance, and the potential for really significant calorie burn, often matching or even beating things like running.
And just swimming easy laps might not be enough to maximize those benefits.
Right. Intensity matters. Whether that's swimming faster, using HIIT intervals, or doing those challenging water resistance exercises. Variety is also key, mixing strokes, adding drills, using aids. It keeps your body adapting and keeps you from getting bored. And underlying all of it is consistency, showing up regularly.
But it's definitely not just about what happens in the pool.
No, absolutely not. The sources make it crystal clear. You need to pair your swimming with a balanced diet that creates that calorie deficit. And other healthy habits like getting enough sleep and maybe adding some weight training, they all work together for the best results.
It really sounds like the pool is presented as this incredibly versatile space for fitness, offering way more than people might think.
It really is. And maybe the most resonant final thought, especially drawing from that world champions perspective, was this idea of joyful movement.
Joyful movement.
Yeah. The idea that finding ways to get the results you want while actually enjoying the process.
Yeah.
That's huge. It elevates the whole experience beyond just numbers.
That really shifts the focus, doesn't it? From just grinding it out to finding something sustainable and positive.
It does. It suggests that maybe the quote-unquote best workout isn't the one that looks hardest on paper, but the one you genuinely look forward to doing, because that's the one you'll stick with. And as we've seen, the pool offers so many possibilities for finding that joy, whether it's the rhythm of swimming laps, the challenge of intervals, or the fun of those sport-based drills.
Okay, so here's a final thought then for you listening based on all this. How can you tap into the unique qualities of water and the variety the pool offers? Maybe it's trying a stroke you've never focused on, or one of those resistance exercises, or just adding short speed bursts. How can you integrate that into your routine in a way that feels not just effective, but, well, genuinely enjoyable? Because the sources seem to suggest that when you find that joy, the consistency and the results are much more likely to follow.